What's up, everybody? It's the third episode of my One Piece discussion, which is kind of a subset of my One Piece vlogs that I've been doing. And the guest for this episode is Tyler Doe. So if you want
Whoa,
to
whoa, whoa,
introduce
whoa.
yourself,
It's Tyler Do whenever we're talking about One Piece.
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, but I guess fellow AniTuber, if you want to
Yeah,
introduce
yeah, yeah.
yourself.
I just make anime YouTube videos. It's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, I'm really wanted to focus more on One Piece, so I thought this was an interesting little launching pad for that. So maybe I'll make some more One Piece videos after this.
You definitely should, because
Yeah,
we've talked about it a little bit, I guess,
yeah.
I was on your podcast. And
Mhm.
yeah, make sure you subscribe to Tyler if you haven't. He makes some great videos and funny videos too, with what you're one the weeb out at the library or whatever, the first
Oh,
time the weeb was out. I
yeah.
liked that video a lot.
That one was Weeb goes. No, what was it? Oh yeah, it was losing your manga virginity.
Oh yeah, yeah, good video. Make sure to check it out. um yeah, so right now at the time of recording this, I'm like halfway through Dressrosa. So I think where I'm at, the last kind of thing is it Sabo or Sabo? I'm not sure how to
Sabo.
pronounce it. Sabo.
Hmm.
It's weird. I'm not, since I don't watch the anime,
Yeah.
there's like so many names that I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah, I feel that.
But so he was just reintroduced again, and the last
Mhm.
thing I read is he got the flame fruit.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a decent place maybe to that we
Yeah.
can also talk about that as well. So yeah, that, I guess we can talk about that first, because I just got there. And so I just, what do you think, or what did you think about that when it first
Mhm.
happened? Because for me, it was like I was really excited at first, but I'm also a little nervous that like it feels like they're just recreating Ace
Okay, yeah.
with
So
him.
whenever I first saw it, I was hyped. I loved it, but I do this thing pretty much every time that I would finish an arc. I would just go back and I would watch like YouTube videos on it and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I think it's Grand Line Review that has this opinion, but he just kept on like driving home how much he hates the fact that this is basically just Ace 2.0. And as soon as he pointed that out, because beforehand I was all happy, I was like, oh yeah, sweet, he's got a brother again. This is cool. And then like right after I realized that by watching that series of videos, I Sabo lost a lot for me after that. But I mean, it's still cool. It adds something to the show, but it also is. It just feels like a Ace 2.0, like you were saying. So I don't know.
Yeah, and actually my the first episode of this podcast I did with my brother, and he
Hmm.
mentioned, he was like, "Oh, there's a character that they're going to introduce who feels like he fills a role that's already been done before," which is, I've talked to him now, which is Sabo. And like I just, yeah, I feel it was weird. At first I was hyped about it, and I think it's cool to have like a character introduced with a really strong devil fruit, and then have
Hmm.
someone else have it if they
Yeah.
die. But
Hmm.
it does, yeah, I'm kind of with you. It feels like, I actually think I've seen the thumbnail for the video you're talking about, and I'm like waiting to watch all these One Piece
Yeah.
videos for when I catch up. But yeah, it feels like he's almost like just a copy of
I
Ace.
feel
And
like if they
so
were if they were going to do the whole thing that you touched on just a second ago, where you said giving the devil fruit to somebody else, like a powerful devil fruit to another person, they should not have done it to Luffy's other brother, who just miraculously now is showing up again. Because that just felt like such an asshole. I just didn't like that. I wish that they would have given it to name a different person, right? Like name
yeah,
a villain, name a good guy, name a villain. I'm not necessarily against Sabo coming back. What I am against is, one, when he came back, because I feel like it was just kind of, like I said, an asshole, and then two, giving him the what is it called? What is it? Is it the don't? I don't remember what his fruit's called, but anyways,
the
giving him the
flame fruit.
yeah, giving him the
Yeah,
flame fruit, was just a little on the nose for me. And
yeah.
then also, like, not to mention, Sabo is just a less interesting character than Ace. Like,
Yeah.
Ace is just so much more. He's infinitely more interesting than Sabo is.
Yeah, and obviously I haven't seen much of him yet because he
Yeah.
just got it and just started using it. But like and maybe over time, and it seems like from where you're at, they haven't really changed this, but like over time, if they did development him in a cool way and just separated him from Ace, would be cool. Because I really liked
Mhm.
the idea, like when he's first introduced in the backstory, I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like I like that they have a third brother.
Yeah.
I'm sad that they all don't three, like they're not all grown up and get to
Mhm.
be with each other. But it was like, okay, whatever, like that's cool. It's just weird that he has the flame fruit.
What do you? I can't remember because it's been a while. What do you know of Sabo as a character in relation to his role in the world?
I think he works for he's with the Revolution. I do know that. I'm not sure like what his exact role is
Okay,
with the
okay.
Revolution.
So I can touch on that a little bit. That was something that I liked about him because I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we haven't seen this perspective at all." Like, I'm interested to see what we can do with this perspective and getting somebody who's a little closer to Luffy's father, which I am. That is one of my biggest parts of the story that I'm like obsessed with. I just
Yeah.
really want to know more. And so as soon as I saw Sabo as a avenue to get to Luffy's father, I was like, "Oh yeah, I need this." So I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I think that's cool, and I want to hear more about the Revolution. So I think it's like it's a weird thing right now, but maybe even way later down the line they'll kind of separate him from what Ace was.
Right.
That's kind of like the first moment that I've had where I've kind of like questioned what Oda, like a choice Oda
Yeah.
made, which is kind of absurd that it happened like 700 chapters into the
Yeah.
story.
Mhm.
So it's like even if it's a little thing, it's kind of weird. It's not that big of a deal overall.
It's not the end of the world, but doesn't it feel more poignant whenever you think about the fact that it like you just don't think of Oda to make mistakes like that, and obviously it wasn't a mistake, but it just feels so contrived and like he didn't think about it until the last minute. Like he was like, "Oh man, everybody's really beat up about this whole Ace situation. Looks like I should probably add another character." Like if he was gonna have a third brother, it should have been explained. Like he's so good at doing this that I'm surprised he didn't. Like second episode of the story, Luffy goes, "Yeah, I have two brothers." That's all he says. Dude,
Yeah.
totally fine. No ass pull at all. That he said it that long ago. That would have been like one of those mystical Oda moments, but instead it's like, "Yeah, I have one brother. I've been saying this the entire time through. I have a brother. That's all you need to know. Oh, me and Ace are meet up on our ship and he never mentions it." It's like
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah, it is kind of weird. And I guess because he thought he was dead,
mhm.
that's like the justification. It is just a weird thing that it's like he's just filling the role that Ace did.
Right.
And so if he does separate himself, I think
Well,
it
I
could be
guess
cool.
one way they separate him is that he is a revolutionary. He's not a pirate. He has no
Yeah.
desire to be a pirate or the pirate king or help anybody who's a pirate. The only thing he wants to do is help Luffy and then also
Hmm.
be a revolutionary. That's the only motives that he has. And so I think that's one way
Yeah.
they do. But I agree. I don't think it's enough. What do you think about the I guess where you're at, you don't have much of an explanation for all this. But what do you think of? Let me just ask this instead. What do you think of Dressrosa as a whole so far? Like, how do you like the setting? What are you thinking of the arc?
Yeah, I do really like it so far. It's moving at a faster pace than
Mhm.
like it feels like it's a big arc, right? Like Punk Hazard, and I just talked about this in my review that that's going to be coming out. It's not out by the time we're filming this, but it should be when it's uploaded. But that it feels like a setup for
Mhm.
Dressrosa,
Mhm.
and that Fishman Island was also kind of just like its own isolated thing.
Mhm.
So it's moving at a pretty fast pace. There's a lot going on. I really like Flamingo, and I do know a few things about his backstory because I actually got spoiled by Super Eye Patch Wolf's video like
Mhm.
a few years ago
Mhm.
because I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I'll ever read One Piece.
That's how I
But
was.
honestly, yeah, it's probably a reason that I am reading One Piece is
Yeah.
because of like that video
Mhm.
and hearing a little bit about Flamingo's backstory. I love Law. Like I feel like
Oh,
everyone
dude.
else on the
Yeah.
planet loves
Law's
Law.
easy. So.
Yeah, I like I actually like the toys. I think it's
Mm,
kind of an
mhm,
interesting concept
mhm,
of like what happens when they forget their past, like when people forget that these people existed.
yeah.
We've kind of learned a little bit about that. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I really want to know more about Flamingo. Like I know a little bit about his backstory, but
Mhm.
I want that and his and Law's backstory to get
He
fleshed
is one
out.
of my favorite villains in all of One Piece. I mean, that's a statement or obvious statement of the
Yeah.
century. Like everybody says that, but man, the way that he's developed, the way that you start to sympathize for him a little bit, like a lot of good stuff with him. The reason why I asked you about Dressrosa in general is because I feel like a lot of people just they start feeling like this is where the story drags along because I
Oh,
guess it's
really?
just the length. I think it's the length. I think a lot of people see how long it is and they're like, oh my god,
Oh
come
my,
on. I
yeah.
never had this problem. Well, you have to realize also, I started reading One Piece, so I was watching One Piece till about halfway through Fishman Island, and then I was
Hmm.
like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch this anymore. It's just too
Yeah.
slow. So I started reading, and I ended up just skipping to the end of Fishman Island at first, and then actually going back and reading it later. But I just skipped to the end
Hmm.
of Fishman Island. So Dressrosa was the second arc that I fully read through, and I loved it the whole way through. But like I said,
Yeah.
I might be spoiled from like the newness of it. That's the only reason I don't. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I think Dressrosa is shaping up to be one of the better arcs. So
Mm-hmm.
my arc, my favorite kind of saga was the Summit War in Marine Ford
Mm-hmm.
so far. And Water 7, I know is a lot of people put it like as their favorite. It's a little bit lower for me. I'm actually, I don't know if you've seen me talk about it on Twitter, but I'm not like that big of a fan of Rob Lucci, which is
Ah,
kind of like the one hot take that I have.
yeah,
Because basically the rest of the series, I'm like, I love everything about it. I'm with everyone
yeah.
on everything. But I think Dressrosa is kind of building up to be probably like so far around my second favorite. Obviously, it needs
Ooh,
to follow
interesting.
through on that. Um, yeah. So, what did you think of? Because obviously, I'm not getting any of the pacing issues
Mhm.
because I'm reading it. And when I have watched some of the anime. Like when I was a kid, I watched the Four Kids dub,
Oh yeah, me
and
too.
I'd seen up to Skypiea, I think like 3 times, and then I always stopped at Skypiea for some reason.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then even reading it over this last year, I also stopped at Skypiea when I was reading it and took like a 2 month break, which is really weird because I
Mhm.
actually really liked the end of that arc,
Mhm.
but the beginning of it was kind of a struggle. But what did you think, like in comparison to the rest of One Piece? Where would you kind of rank Fishman Island and Punk Hazard?
So I feel like Fishman Island couldn't have done much just based off the fact that it was coming off the 2 year time skip. So it was like we have to show you how strong these characters are, right? Like
Hmm.
that's just what's got to happen. And so they can't super struggle with anybody, because if they struggle really hard, then the audience would feel like, oh well, they just spent 2 years training. How are they not stronger? And they've apparently developed all these new skills. So how aren't they any stronger? So I think that Fishman Island kind of suffers from that a little bit. It doesn't ever feel like super high stakes to me. Like I
Yeah.
understand there's stakes there. The only thing that I really like about Fishman Island, I hate the villains. One of the only things that I like about it is getting more information on Fishman Tiger, more information about the race relations between the
Hmm.
fishmen and the humans, and then also learning more about Arlong's backstory. Those were all like super good parts of the Fishman Island arc. But like it just has so much potential and just falls flat. I almost wish that they would have put some sort of little crappy arc in between Fishman Island and the 2 year time skip, so they could have developed this grandiose plot where
Hmm.
there's a lot going on and the characters are all super strong. Because as we stand, it almost felt like they didn't need the time skip to beat them, because that's how easily they were like defeating everybody. Like
Yeah.
Zoro beats a fishman underwater.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
like
it's true.
he wrecks him. Like, and that's the main antagonist of the entire thing. There are some cool
Yeah.
devil fruits in Fishman Island. Like the what's his name? Is it Vanderdecken? I think Vanderdecken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Vanderdecken has that fruit, which I think is pretty cool. But horrible idea to eat a devil fruit. If you're gonna be a fisherman, you lose like
It's
90% of
so
what you
true.
got.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Why would you ever eat a devil fruit
I mean, I
if
could understand.
take away the fact that you can swim because that's
Yeah,
you're so much better underwater.
yeah, I mean, maybe if you were like gonna have Whitebeard's fruit or like Blackbeard's fruit, you might,
Yeah.
give up but not for anything else. I mean, his
Yeah.
devil fruit was pretty good in the right hands. It could have been very powerful, but he just squanders it away, and it's just like that was kind of a
Yeah.
disappointment. But overall, I'd say Fishman Island is like lower mid to me, and then
Okay.
Punk Hazard, like I said, it was the first one that I fully read, and so I think that I have a
Hmm.
little bit of nostalgia, and I read it colorized, which I think helped, because I feel like it would have been really boring to read that without it being colorized.
Oh, interesting.
Um, it was pretty good to me. I thought it was a nice little fun arc. It wasn't anything too crazy. There were some deeper plot lines in there, like addiction and
Hmm.
experimentation on children and stuff like that. But overall, I feel like they did a good job making Caesar be super easy to hate. And I also really like Virgo. One thing I will say about Punk Hazard, and I want to get your opinion on this actually, is super bummed the way Smoker was handled. That was my biggest
Yeah.
disappointment, because I love Smoker, and I was like, oh dude, look, he's got a new design. He's gonna be so cool. Like he's gonna know hockey. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. I think he does know hockey, but he just sucks.
Yeah.
He gets smacked for like the next whatever 60 chapters or however long it is.
Yeah, yeah. I do like Smoker a lot, and I do like how he like always is chasing Luffy, but then
Mm-hmm.
in like every situation they end up together, they're like are on the same side
Yeah,
because they
there's
both
no way they can. Yeah,
yeah, because they have like similar morals, even though they're on the
yeah,
opposite sides. But I do wish he was a little bit stronger because I do want like It would be kind of cool to see him and Luffy fight one day where they're on the same scale, but it just seems like Smoker's
Well,
never going to be that strong.
I feel like that's where they were going at first. Like I almost feel like
Yeah.
this could have been a thing that Oda might have changed halfway through because it really felt like he was going to make Smoker be the Garp to the Roger, going to be like that
Yeah.
situation. And then all of a sudden he just falls off because I think it's because hockey was introduced, honestly. And I
Mhm.
think what they're going to do now is make Kobe that's my
Yeah.
opinion. That's
That'd
what
be
I see coming.
interesting.
I see them making Kobe super powerful, and Kobe ends up being the Garp to his Roger because I just don't think Smoker's up to the challenge. Honestly, it just doesn't seem like
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah, that is interesting. And I also thought, I was like, oh, when Smoker was introduced as a vice admiral, I was like, well, maybe there's a chance, in the near future that he could be a candidate to become one of the three admirals
yeah,
one day. And now after like Punk Hazard, it's like it
yeah,
probably does not
you
happen. He'd have to
cannot
go through,
justify that.
yeah,
Yeah,
he'd have to go through an insane training arc to
dude,
get to that point.
I don't even know what he would have to go through to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't imagine a reality, at least in the near future, where he can do anything to get that powerful. Like,
Yeah,
you
because
put
I also just met one of the new admirals. What's his name? Fuji something.
Fujitora.
Yeah, he's
Mhm.
really cool, and his like
Yeah,
gravity power. Like I can't even imagine. He would just destroy Smoker. I feel
I
like.
was gonna say, put Smoker against literally any of them, and he stands no
Yeah,
chance. Like even Kizaru would wipe the floor with Smoker. There'd
yeah,
be no competition. I mean, it would be like if Luffy walked up to like 6-year-old Luffy and was like, "Want to have a full out fight?"
yeah,
Like, not really. But I just feel like Smoker has just been getting shitted on in my opinion. I really want to see more from Smoker. I would love to see a reality in which he gets the development that he needs to be that powerful, but honestly, I just
yeah,
don't see it happening.
yeah. It seems like you're right. Kobe does have a chance because he unlocked his hockey
Yeah,
at the Summit War, and obviously they're gonna have something happen between the two of them
yeah.
because of what happened in Chapter One. Which I want to see
Oh yeah,
Kobe
for sure.
be a sweet fighter.
I would
That's
like to
gonna
see.
be
So he's been getting the fast track development. Like he's advanced more than Smoker has in his entire life in the last like 2 years or whatever. And
yeah.
so I feel like since they're fast tracking him like this, that it's almost just like the writing's on the wall. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like Smoker just maybe it was because they brought in hockey, and so it was like, oh, there's no way that we can have him be the final you know rival. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, because it's also seemed like they were going to set it up because of Smoker's the girl with Smoker who's a swordsman,
Oh,
her and
Tashigi.
Zoro. Yeah, and
Mhm.
they because it seemed like that was the perfect like Smoker and her versus Zoro and Luffy. But yeah, it just seems like they kind of are letting him be way weaker than
Yeah.
all of the other big players. Yeah, but back to my opinion real quick on
Mhm.
Fishman Island and Punk Hazard. I actually kind of I liked Punk Hazard. I thought the island specifically was really cool, but it definitely just does feel like it's in service of Dressrosa, and
Yeah.
it feels
Mhm.
like it's just this big lead up. So it's almost even like I feel like eventually I might think of them as like kind of the same thing because they
Right.
lead so quickly into each other.
Mhm.
But I think I like Fishman Island maybe a little bit more than you did. Um, and I can't imagine though. I can see where some of the criticisms come from it. I actually liked what is it, Hootie Jones.
Mhm.
I liked him a decent amount. I think he's more of a mid villain, but I thought he was okay, but I really liked how the series, like you said, handles like racism and how it brings
Mhm.
back Arlong, which is kind of what I thought made the arc worth it. But also,
Yeah.
it's like in comparison to any of the big arcs, it's just not on the same level.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
mean,
kind of
compare Fishman Island to like Arlong Park, even, and you're like, oh
yeah
no, Arlong Park's way better. Like, there's
yeah.
no comparison.
It's surprising how good Arlong Park is
Well,
for
yeah,
how early it is
it's
in the
also
story.
surprising because it's just funny. You learn probably, I think you learn more for sure in Fishman Island, and so when you look at Fishman Island, you think, okay, well, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. It's the better arc, but then once you actually go back, there's just something like a little extra Oda touch on Arlong Park than I think you get on Fishman Island.
Yeah, well, and I also think like Arlong Park is really the moment, at least for me, where it's like this series is great. Like this series is amazing Right. And like even the Nami moment where the iconic moment where he puts the
Hmm.
hat on Nami, like that's still one of the best moments in the entire
Yeah,
series.
yeah, for sure.
And yeah, and I always look back on like the East Blue saga and it's like, well, I think he gets a lot better after East Blue, but Arlong Park just still like stands out. So that's a good point. And I think I want to go back and reread or even watch Arlong Park now that I've read Fishman Island to see if
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
because I don't know if you've done that, but I'm sure it changes it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure
Just
it
kind
does.
of knowing
I
Arlong.
think that I've watched it since so I watched it first in the Four Kids dub, and then I watched it again in, I guess, the Toei or Funimation dub, whatever,
Hmm.
whichever one dubbed it. And then I think that I've gone back and watched it one more time, but I don't remember if I've watched it since I've seen Fishman Island, because I just love that arc. I could go back and watch Fishman Island like every day and be fine. Like I love
Yeah.
watching that arc. But yeah, I think that it's just crazy to me. This is like Fishman Island was a good example of how you take this character like Arlong, where you think he's like pretty two dimensional. You think you understand all of his motives and you think you understand everything about him. And then next thing you know, like he gets a huge breath of fresh air, like a huge added depth that you just didn't think you were going to get from him. And he starts to be understandable as a villain, because in Fishman Island, it was almost just like, dude, this guy's like reprehensible. There's nothing good about him. But then
Hmm.
you start looking back at it through the lens of Fishman Island. You're like, I could see how he got there. Like it's
Yeah.
crappy, but
Easily. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like because of the time skip, and I feel like Oda even more in Fishman Island, and you can see it in Punk Hazard too, with like you said, the how it tackles addiction. It just feels
Hmm.
like Oda kind of like the characters grew up, but also some of the themes kind of grow up, and he like it seems like
Yeah.
he's explicitly tackling kind of headier ideas, which is pretty cool to see. Obviously, like a story this long for it to stay relevant, like that
Hmm.
needs to happen.
Hmm.
uh yeah, I enjoyed Fishman Island, but it's still like I view it on like the Thriller Bark type of a scale. Like I enjoy
Oh,
it.
you
You
and I
like
are
Thriller
gonna.
Bark a lot more?
Oh, I love Thriller Bark. It's one of my
Oh
favorite
wow.
arcs. Whenever I look, I don't know why. I think it might just be the entire vibe and atmosphere of that arc in general. But I would put Thriller Bark, like, I don't know, if we're doing a tier list video right now, I'd say Fishman Island down there in D tier, and then Thriller Bark's in A or S. Like I love Thriller
Wow.
Bark. Yeah, I really love Thriller Bark.
Wow, that's big. I mean, Thriller Bark's really good, and I am of the philosophy that like a mediocre to bad One Piece arc is better than
Well,
like most like My Hero arcs or like
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
Um, like I don't think there's any terrible arcs by any
not
means. Like
really. Yeah,
I think they're all enjoyable and they all have their own charm. Yeah, I like Moria a lot. And I
yeah.
know we've talked about this, and I don't know why I like Moria a lot, but I just think he's fun.
Yeah, your love for Moria confuses me,
I
because
know.
I was making that little spin-off video, and it just kept ringing back in my head every time that I was doing it. I'm like, should I add Moria in, because this guy really loves Moria? I'm like, should I add Moria in just because he keeps saying it? But I
I
couldn't
know.
justify it at all. I could not put him
No.
in there.
I mean,
I,
to be honest, he would not be a good spin-off character, but I just think he's funny and I want to
he's interesting.
I'm sure he comes back. I don't know if he comes back where you're at, but that sounds like a yes to
I'm
me.
not giving you a yes or a no.
But
I don't spoil anything whenever it comes
yeah,
to
I
One
mean,
Piece.
I'm sure he did just because Doflamingo was like, oh, he disappeared when he was like beating him up, or whatever, at the
Hmm.
end of the Summit War.
Hmm.
But I feel like for my setup, I need to get a Moria figure.
Yeah, you
It
do.
needs to be the first figure I get for
Well,
sure.
well,
For the
let me know when
memes.
your birthday is. I'll send you one.
There we go. There we go.
You're like,
Yeah,
tomorrow. No.
yeah. I should have been. Um, yeah, I liked Fishman Island, but I can definitely see where some of the criticisms come from. And it would have been like, I wonder how it would have been reading it weekly. Like, I get that feeling a lot while I'm
Oh
reading it
yeah,
because I can fly through it so
yeah.
fast. And it's like,
So
if
even
I
if you
was
don't
reading
like
this
it, it's not that big
weekly,
of a deal. Yeah.
yeah, and I can, even in a bigger storyline, like right now with where I'm at in Dressrosa, like I think what the tournament, at least for a little bit, where Luffy's fighting in the tournament, Law's fighting Flamingo
Hmm.
at the different side of the island, and then kind of like Zoro and Sanji are doing their own thing, and then like Brook and Nami are on the ship, and it's like Law's storyline and Luffy's storyline I found way more interesting than the others, but I don't have to like read, even if we focus on Nami for a chapter, that's like 15 minutes and then I'm
Yeah,
on to the
yeah,
next
if
thing.
that, yeah.
It's not a week. Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So I can skip through a lot of, if there's any plot lines that don't hit
Mhm.
well, like I think that is
You
going to
just skim.
be, yeah, you can just go through it pretty quickly. And so it'll be interesting when I catch up, and I will start reading it weekly to see if like it starts to get
Well,
tedious.
where I'm at, so I didn't start reading weekly until Wano.
Hmm.
And I have not felt like that at all. I've like
Sweet.
every single chapter, I'm like, well, at least the most recent like 10 or 15 chapters, I have been like just so excited to get to the next one, but I feel
Sweet.
satisfied. Like I feel like in other shows, I sometimes get this thing where I'm like, oh, I just finished this chapter, and I'm like, I don't feel like I learned anything new, and I feel like I'm not
Yeah.
even that excited for the next chapter. But on this, it's like every chapter, I'm like, I cannot wait. I just can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I'm just excited to get a part of the conversation too of
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
everyone
for
who's
sure.
talking about it and watching all the reaction videos and probably making some of my own.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge push for me. I really want to, which I think I will because I've been going pretty fast, but I want to make sure I'm caught up by the time we get to chapter 1,000,
Yeah.
because
That's
I feel like that's going to be a big
15 weeks.
moment.
So it's either going to be between 15 and 30 weeks from now. Do you think you could do it in
Yeah,
that time? I think
I
you could do
think
it.
I should be able to because
Yeah.
I'm in the early 70s, and I feel
Yeah.
like once I get caught up, it'll all go pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the goal. But yeah, I think Dressrosa is actually like scaling up to be one of my favorite arcs so far. I'm just curious. Like I'm sure Flamingo's gonna hit, and if he does, I feel like it's gonna make this arc
I
really
feel a
insane.
little bad for you because I just like I don't know if you saw, but there was like this little meme going around where one of Oda's editor was saying that he was crying from the last
Hmm.
chapter. I don't know if
I
you've
did
seen
see
that.
it.
I feel
Yeah,
almost a little bit like a more extreme version of that for you where you're at right now because everybody's telling you, dude, this character, the best
it's
character,
true.
he's so cool. And so I bet you're just thinking, oh my god, this guy's got to be amazing, or else it's going to be a letdown almost. I'm
Yeah.
a little nervous to say too much about him because I see that he has flaws, whereas I don't think that a lot of other people do. But
Hmm.
I'll be definitely interested to hear your opinion on it whenever you do get to him. But yeah, he's definitely one of the more interesting characters. I also like the toy soldier guy. I don't remember his name at this point, but I like the toy soldier
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. He's cool.
He's interesting because whenever you meet him, you almost think of him as totally insignificant. Like you're like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just some random toy, and then you start realizing like the logistics. Like, oh, this used to be a person. Like, oh
Yeah.
my god, he's got his own backstory, and like he's just walking around with Frankie, and you just start getting more and more invested in this guy that
Hmm.
you never thought. Which is something that One Piece is really good at in general. Like whenever I first
Yeah.
met Bon Clay, I was like,
Oh yeah.
dude, there's no way that Bon Clay is gonna be like I was totally not thinking anything of Bon Clay when I saw it. In fact, I probably had negative emotions whenever I saw him. I'm like,
Yeah.
like the horrible character design. Like I just don't like
Hmm.
it. I don't like the whole character design of him. Like that was pretty much it. I just liked character design mostly,
Yeah.
and I wasn't really in love with his devil fruit ability. Now he's one of my favorite characters. Like after he did his thing, and especially
Hmm.
in Impel Down, just legend,
Oh
legend.
yeah. Yeah.
But I
Impel
feel like
Down's one of my favorites too, and that moment is awesome,
yeah,
but
I don't
sad.
I don't know. I'm interested to see. One thing I like about One Piece is I want to see when and if everybody comes back, right? Like I want to know
Yes.
who's gonna be back there at the end and who's not, essentially.
Yeah, because that is one of the things about the fact that Oda doesn't kill people. Not
Hmm.
only does I think it helped punctuate Ace's death,
Hmm.
but also you have this opportunity where there could just be the biggest battle like we've ever seen in a shonen, where it's every big villain that we've ever seen, every big player, because obviously One Piece's world is huge,
Yeah.
all coming together in one spot. And like another character, the villain of Skypiea, was it NL?
Oh yeah, I know.
um if he can, like, he could come back. I feel like he
Yeah.
probably will. And like what I think Oda said, his because he can use hockey, they just didn't know what it was called when he was
Yeah.
using it and stuff. It's like
Mantra or
he
whatever.
yeah, and so he's going to be one. He's super strong, and obviously he
Hmm.
might not be at the top tier of everyone when it gets to that point, but it's like someone like him could come back,
Yeah.
which yeah, which is going to be super cool.
I I like how you said something in there where you were like, every time he does kill off somebody because he doesn't kill people off very often, it's like super. poignant and it
Yeah.
feel like you feel it every time it happens. I feel like that was something that I felt with Monet's death in Punk Hazard, because I'm so
Hmm.
used to people just not dying that
Yeah.
whenever she gets like actually killed, I'm like, oh,
Whoa.
oh,
Yeah.
she's dead. Like, oh shit. Like I just kept expecting like Monet to come out of nowhere and be like,
Hmm.
you thought I was dead, but I
Yeah.
wasn't. But that doesn't happen. She's just dead. Like it's just, and
Yeah.
I think even her fruit gets revived. I think that's one
Hmm.
of the first times that we see like how the devil fruit situation works. And even now we
Yeah.
don't really know much more than that, but
Yeah.
but it's like an interesting like little detail that you might miss if you were just like skimming through Punk Hazard, just like, yeah, but it
Yeah.
shows you like, this person died and look, their devil fruit got moved, which is, it's an interesting double move by Oda, because one, it's verifying that she died, and two, it's giving you an insight into how the devil fruit process works.
Yeah. And it's hinting to the fact that the flame fruit's going to
Yeah.
resurface pretty
Hmm.
quickly later, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's another reason why I feel like it feels like Punk Hazard, at least where I'm at, is like the act one, and Desrosa is act 2 and 3 of
Hmm.
this kind of big. I mean, it is really for the saga, but it feels
Yeah.
like they're one arc
Hmm.
versus like even at I think like Sabo Archipelago, the first time it comes around, even though it's in the same saga as like the Marine Ford War, it feels kind of separate, even
Yeah,
though
it
it's
feels
not very
individual.
long.
Yeah. Hmm.
But Punk Hazard kind of feels like it's uh, the same as Dressrosa. At least it has for me so far. Also, a quick question: do you, for the redesigns, who do you have some like your favorite redesigns of the Straw Hats and least favorites?
Man, I pretty much liked everybody. One thing I don't like actually is I just don't like the whole situation with Nami. Like, just like they just over
Hmm.
sexualized the crap out of her on the
Yeah.
redesign. Like, it was like she already had some moments where she was being over sexualized, but it was like sparse enough to where you just kind of let it slide. But now
Hmm.
it's like every time you see her, she's in a bikini and jeans, and it's just like it
Yeah.
just gets old for me really quickly. But if I had to give like my favorites, I liked everybody but Luffy pretty much, because and Luffy and Chopper, because Chopper changes a little bit, but not really. Brooke doesn't change at all. Frankie, I kind of like less almost. Like, I don't know. I don't like the huge thing. I wish they would have gone somewhere in the middle. Like, I would have been
I'm
happy with
with you.
that.
Frankie, I think all the redesigns, like with Nami and Robin, it's just kind of annoying. Like, I
Mhm.
don't really need that fan service or that
Yeah,
extent of
but
it.
Zoro and Sanji got good. I guess they're really the only two now that I'm thinking. I said
Yeah, I
everybody at
think,
first, but
yeah, for me, Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp. I think
yeah,
Usopp with
Usopp
his
too.
like
Yeah, you're right.
longer
Yeah.
hair,
Hmm.
I think those three
More
look
muscular.
awesome. Yeah, Luffy just like adds the
Same thing.
scar.
Hmm.
But I think Frankie looks way worse. He's the only one that
Yeah.
like I actively don't like his redesign,
Hmm.
and it makes me feel like I don't like the character because
Yeah.
I loved Frankie when they introduced him, and now he's just like he's too big almost, and it's like weird
Yeah.
and
It's
like
it's like, look, everybody's around the same scale, and then all of a sudden you got this guy who's just
yeah,
like ridiculous. I don't know. I feel like they could have gone somewhere in the middle, and I would have been happy with that. But
yeah, me
like, and
too.
also it gives you a vibe that like Frankie's gonna be super, super powerful. He's not really that much more. Like, I
No,
don't
he's
really
not.
notice much of a difference with him at all. Like, he's just much bigger,
Yeah.
but not really much stronger. Um, yeah, I don't know. Who is your favorite Straw Hat?
I probably just because growing up he was my favorite is Sanji, but I love Sanji a lot. But but right behind him is actually Luffy and Zoro,
Mm-hmm.
and Robin is really high for me.
Mm-hmm.
Robin,
Hmm.
especially, I think she might go down a little bit as I get to the time skip because she just I feel like isn't going to be having like as many big moments
Right.
because they're not fleshing out the crew anymore. They're
Hmm.
making
They're trying
meeting.
to progress the story versus like fleshing out the crew at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, so but those four are probably 4 or 5. Those are my kind of my favorites in the
Yeah, I would
crew.
definitely go Sanji and then Robin for sure. Like, Sanji's my number one favorite. I
Yeah,
think that I like Zoro, but my problem with Zoro is that he's everybody else's favorite, and
yeah,
that kind of gets in the way for me. I don't know. I'm just like that. Like, if you tell me, oh, Game of Thrones is the best show ever, it takes me 6 to get to it. Like, I'm
yeah.
like that. So I feel like I just hear too much about Zoro to like him as much as I want to, because I really like everything about him. I can't really name something that I don't like about Zoro, but for some reason he
Hmm.
just doesn't stand out to me. But Sanji, I feel like he's a really unique character, in that he's mostly serious, but then obviously like whenever there's a woman around. But speaking of Sanji, he had one of the weakest performances in Fishman Island. Like the whole
Yeah.
like nosebleed thing. I was just like, I'm tired of this. I
Yeah.
don't want to see this anymore. Like I get it, you know.
Yeah, it got kind of weird when they turned it from a gag to like an actual plot thing
Yeah, like a real
where
problem.
yeah, so that
Mhm.
was a little weird and then it just kept happening.
Mhm.
And like I think it's funny the island he went to and that the fact
Yeah,
that he
yeah,
just ran forever, like I think that
yeah.
is a perfect use of the humor of like how into women he is.
Mhm.
But it was a little frustrating in Fishman Island. I'm
I
definitely
thought it
with you
was
there.
funny. Whenever the time skip happened, everybody was wondering what was under Sanji's other, like what Sanji's other eye was. Everybody was like, "Oh, I wonder what's
And
under
it's
there."
the
Oh god, it's just the same thing except
yeah, so
the
its eyebrows go the
eyebrows turn
same
up.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that I thought that was funny because you're like, "Oh my god, I wonder what's gonna be under there." Which I kind of feel like about Zoro right now with the whole eye thing. It's like, how are we just not talking about this? How are
Yeah.
we just not talking about the fact that Zoro has a freaking that's something that's funny in with the Straw Hats in general. If anything changes or anything, like they don't talk to
They
each
don't
other like
talk
that for
about it.
some reason. It's just
Yeah.
strange because like Luffy doesn't even know like 90% of anybody's backstory. The only backstories
Oh,
he
I
knows
know.
is whenever he hears them by accident, but that's all he knows.
Yeah, like he doesn't know Nami's backstory because he
Mm-hmm.
refused to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't. He doesn't know Robin's, does he
Mm-hmm.
either?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that he just
It
and like when you first see him in Zoro, there's like a little off panel where he's like, "So where were you this entire time?" to Zoro, and then they just cut away from it, and I'm like, I
yeah.
want to hear that
Yeah,
conversation.
no, it's just really funny because you would think that they would all get on the crew and be like, "All right, what's new with everybody? Let's talk." Never really happens. I guess there is that one little off-panel thing, but I don't even
Hmm.
know if they had the conversation or not because it wasn't shown on the thing. So who knows
Yeah,
what they
I'm
said?
sure, and I feel like the most Zoro would have said is, "Oh, I was with Mihawk," and he's like, "Oh, cool, I was with Rayling,"
I
and
don't
that's
even
it.
know if it would have gone that far.
Yeah,
I feel like it would have been like, "Oh, where were you during that time skip?" And he would have just been like training, and he'd be like, "Me too." That's how that
yeah, it's
conversation would
true.
have gone. So it's like I'm clamoring for more, which I guess is a good thing. Oda knows exactly how to show you just enough for you to be like, "Ooh, I really want to know more," but not too much
Yeah.
to where you're like you feel spoiled a little bit. You know, like, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, I already know what's happening with this." So yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know. I like it and dislike it. I really want to see just especially after the arc where we're at right now, which I know you're not caught up, but I
Hmm.
would just love to see a like 5 chapter we're just sailing on the ship and just going through regular life on this ship
Yeah.
because I feel like I kind of need that at this point, like, and I feel like that was how I was too. Actually, the reason why I brought that up, that's how I was at the end of Dressrosa. I was like, I just need a relaxation arc after all that. I mean, that's what happened with Long Ring Long Land. That was
Yeah.
literally what that was. That was like, okay,
Hmm.
let's chill out. Like let's lower the stakes way down and let's
Hmm.
just have a calm, like almost filler-esque arc. And I kind
Yeah.
of felt like I needed that after Dressrosa.
Yeah. I definitely can see that. Like after some of the big arcs, it's like I just want to see the crew on the ship,
Yeah.
not even for that long, but as just a little bit of them on the ship before they get into any trouble. Especially after everyone's kind of been established on the crew for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how I probably will have a similar feeling. I think
I mean,
soon.
I would even take just if it was a chapter. I'd be like,
Yeah.
cool, sweet, just a
Good
chapter to
enough.
chill. Let's. But then again, it depends on the arc. I feel like after Dressrosa, I was pretty burnt out. I think Dressrosa, it didn't feel like it was dragging on to me, but I definitely knew it was long because it was taking me forever to get through.
Hmm.
And I'm a super slow reader. Like that's one
Hmm.
of the biggest problems with manga for me in general is that if I'm
Yeah.
not caught up to it weekly, I just feel like, am I
It's
really
a
gonna
lot to
sit
get
here and
back.
yeah? Because I'm a pretty slow reader, so I just feel like once Dressrosa was over, it had taken me weeks to get through Dressrosa. Like I was just
Yeah.
such a slow and so by the time I was done, I was like, okay, come on, like just give me a break. But
Yeah, for sure. And it feels like, at least I feel like I have this feeling at Dressrosa because Flamingo seems like, because obviously I know that it goes to like eventually Whole Cake Island and then
hmm
Wano.
hmm
So Big Mom and is kind of like the next big villain. So they're going to
hmm
the Emperors pretty quick.
hmm
And it kind of feels like Flamingo is filling like a pretty good role of he's like one of the strongest pirates that
right.
isn't an emperor,
Yeah,
and
he's like
it's
the
like
strongest warlord, basically, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels like it's like we're just building up and then we're gonna go even bigger when
Yeah.
we're gonna
Mhm.
be with the emperors. And it's kind of like exciting, at least for me, and I don't know if you had this feeling of so much of the pre-time skip is setting up the crew and like then just randomly going to places without a plan. But
Mhm.
all of a sudden now it feels like even when Luffy
There's a
mentions,
path. Yeah.
yeah, and Luffy's like, I plan on taking down all four of the warlords as long as
Mhm.
it's not Shanks first. I don't care who we go after
Mhm.
next. And it's like, and then obviously when they go to Dressrosa, they have a plan because they're following law, but it feels like they kind of know where they're going a little bit now.
Mhm.
Which is kind of a nice feeling for the series that has constantly like they show up to a
Yeah.
random place, and instead of having them have a goal when they're at the beginning, because every arc they show up to a new island, they all get separated, they learn about whatever corruption's going
Mhm.
on, and then they
Mhm.
solve it. But having a goal, similar with like Impel Down, how Luffy goes there with the goal of saving Ace, I just feel like helps me get into the arc a lot quicker.
Yeah, because I see what you mean, because sometimes it just feels like the random nature of everything. Like there's times where I really like it, where it's like whenever they first get in the Grand Line and it's like, oh my God, I have no idea what's
Mhm.
going on, and I feel like that
Yeah,
was the excuse for why everything was so random. But now it's like, all right, we got the hang of this. Like, come on, Nami literally went to Weatheria and like, has
yeah,
a lock on the weather. So I mean, we shouldn't be running into all these random problems anymore. So I feel like if there are any random problems, it's like Punk Hazard where they come up and then they get a distress signal. But I feel like I understand what you mean with them having. I was really shocked. You do know, whenever I believe you already have gotten to this point, but I don't want to say anything if you haven't. But does Law say who the next warlord they want to go after is?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So whenever they said Kaido,
Hmm.
that was a pivotal moment for me. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Why
Yeah,
go after that one first? That one's
yeah.
the worst out of all of them. That I wouldn't want to go after him.
Hmm.
I'd be like, all right, let's go after, I guess, Big Mom or somebody. But
Yeah,
without saying too much, like I feel like something you were touching on is that it almost feels like Dofi is kind of like a not a stepping stone, because it's not like they just use him for plot convenience, but he's
mm,
like that pivotal moment where it kind of makes you realize that the Straw Hats are key players. And I really
yeah,
like that about Doflamingo in general, because it makes him feel like he has a serious place of importance and relevance to the entire story, and not like even later on you're still not sure, like you're like, oh man, was he more powerful, or what, like you're always questioning. And I think that's something
yeah.
interesting about One Piece in general, is like they don't do a specific hierarchy of who beats who every single time,
Hmm.
like if Zoro and Luffy fought, I mean, they might each win 5 times. Like you don't even know,
Yeah.
who knows who wins that, you know.
Yeah, and with Flamingo, at least I've got this feeling because his introduction's like really cool when they kind
Mm-hmm.
of reintroduce him, and
Mm-hmm.
he gets like a phone call and he's getting attacked when he's like talking to Law or like on the
Mm-hmm.
snail,
Mm-hmm.
and but he just like is so calm, and then
Yeah, he
like
doesn't care.
randomly, yeah, and randomly he starts flying through the sky, and you're
Yeah.
like, how can he even do that? Like I didn't know we were watching Naruto right now.
Yeah.
Um, so he's super intimidating, and at least I get the feeling that if circumstances were different, he could be an emperor
Yeah, I,
almost.
I think that the reason that he's not an emperor is just he just really wants the status and to have money. That's all he
Hmm.
wants. He's not in it for like, he doesn't want to be the most powerful pirate of all time.
Yeah,
That's just not something that he wants. And so I think that's also something interesting that we could talk about, is like the character motivations in One Piece are always very interesting to me, because it seems like a lot of times characters that you would think would want a bunch of power don't want a bunch of power, and then characters
hmm,
that you think would want, like, and then the vice versa of
yeah,
that. Like for example, Moria is actually a good example of that. His at first he wanted to be the pirate king. That's what he wanted.
yeah,
And so motivations in One Piece are always more fleshed out than you think they are originally, I guess what I'm trying to get at.
yeah, and that's definitely one of my favorite things is the conflicting ideologies and
Mm-hmm.
like paths between the villains and Luffy, or their henchmen and the Straw Hats, is
Mm-hmm.
like one of the most rewarding things in One Piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flamingo feels like in a world he could have been an emperor, and he's definitely
Yeah.
seems like he's strong enough at least, or pretty close to it. But also I really like that he feels like what Crocodile wanted to be,
Yeah.
and it's also like an echo of that because it's kind of the second saga, in the series, and then obviously East Blue was a lot longer than
Mhm,
Fishman
mhm.
Island, but Alabasta is the second saga, and it's like Crocodile wanted to overtake a country and be this like insane ruler, and Flamingo's able to do it, and Flamingo even talks to him and is like, "Hey, you want to work for me?" At the Summit War, and Crocodile's like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's crazy because that shows you I that's another one of those examples where it's like, was Crocodile weak, or was Crocodile just a victim of his circumstance and
mhm.
just happened to run into the one person that was going to be able to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You think that warlords would have to be at least somewhere around the same level. Like I'm sure some of them are a
yeah,
little higher, but that's One Piece for you. Like they don't do that, you know. Like just
hmm
because they have the same title means nothing. You know, this guy is much stronger than this guy. You know, and I feel like that's kind of what happened with Doflamingo and Crocodile to a degree, which is sad because Crocodile is probably one of my favorite villains.
Yeah, I like him more because we talked about this when I was on your podcast about villains, and
Mm-hmm.
it was before Crocodile had ever come back. Like I wasn't that far in
Mm-hmm.
reading it,
Mm-hmm.
and I do like Crocodile a lot more after Impel Down and
Yeah.
everything. Um, yeah, it feels like Flamingo has like the power that It felt like reading Alabasta, like Crocodile was as strong and had as much influence as in reality as like Flamingo does.
Yeah.
Now that you're getting later into the story. Yeah, and with like the warlords, it is kind of an interesting thing where like someone like Moria, it seems like his power also when he first was a warlord was really beneficial for the government to like have that on their side, but then they realized like, okay, things are changing again, we need to change up who our warlords are,
Mm-hmm.
which is another cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but yeah, and with that, we talked about this a little bit ago, but I wanted to bring it back up because this like moment and like things kind of blow my mind, and it's always really funny. With you mentioned that like Luffy, when they're going to different islands and stuff, they just don't know what's going on and everything,
Yeah.
and Luffy knows so little about the world, and I always find it so funny. And this is the specific moment, but it's in Water 7 when they're I think Nami's fighting the girl with the bubble fruit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's either her or Sanji, and they're like, "Oh my god, you have the bubble fruit!" And it's like, how do you know what the bubble fruit is, but you don't know who the seven warlords of the sea
Yeah.
are? Like,
Yeah.
how do you have
Well,
all of the devil fruit memorized, but
so
you don't even know who Mihawk is?
that might be something that can be explained away. I'm not 100% sure on this, and I actually don't think it's canon at all. But I do know one thing about Sanji is that in Thriller Bark, there's one moment where he says that he's scanned over the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia
Mm-hmm.
multiple times whenever he was looking for the invisible fruit or whatever it's called.
Oh,
And so
fair.
and so maybe he knew that because of the
Yeah.
encyclopedia, even though that seems like an obscure fruit that wouldn't be in there. But who knows?
Yeah, it's just always funny when it was specifically that moment that hit me because they're like, the bubble fruit, and I was like, how do you know that?
Dude,
um
there's so many things like that in the show that actually that's I don't know if this would even be a plot hole or if it's just the fact that like the world is so big, but there's so many moments like that where like Luffy doesn't know that like Dragon is his dad and is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. It's like, how do you not know who the leader of the Revolutionary Army is? Like it's this
yeah.
huge thing. I'm sure there's wanted posters for him all over the place. He's the most wanted man in the world. That's literally what he is. So how do
hmm
you not know about this guy, you know? And like I don't know. There's a lot of moments like that where you just think, oh, you should probably know this, but you somehow don't. You know? I don't know.
yeah, yeah, but I feel like it like works in because I feel like that can kind of be a common thing with like little issues like that, not necessarily like knowledge, but in other stories. But I think it works so well just because it fits the humor of
Mm-hmm.
One Piece
Mm-hmm.
well often. But it is just kind of like a funny thing, like looking back on it, like,
Yeah.
okay, you know every devil fruit that's ever existed, but you can't name the warlords, or you don't know who the
Man,
emperors are at
you
first.
seriously got to give Oda some credit whenever it comes to like those little one-off moments where somebody says something that you don't think is relevant at all. There's
Oh,
one
it's so
coming up.
true.
I'm not even going to tell you who it is or who it involves, but there's one coming up that happens in Whole Cake. Once you finish Whole Cake, come back to me and talk to me about that because there's this one moment where I'm just like, they brought this shit up like literally like 400 or 500 chapters previous. I forgot that anybody mentioned this
Wait,
at all.
I might know what it is. So
Oh no.
I think the one thing that I know, because is it now this might even be too obvious, but the at the end of Thriller Bark, isn't one of the characters like related to Big Mom or something like that?
Okay, no, that's not what I'm thinking about, but that's another example.
Oh,
But that's not what I'm thinking about specifically. This one's even farther
sweet.
back than that. It's definitely before Thriller Bark. It was
Sweet.
like I don't even want to say what arc it was in because I don't want
Yeah.
you to like put the dots together. But it was like very far back. Somebody mentioned something, and then it gets brought back up in a pretty significant way, and it's like, oh my god, he told us this literally that long ago, and we just totally it went straight over our
Yeah.
heads. That's something that you got to notice whenever you're reading Oda is like realize every time he says something, it's on purpose. He doesn't
It's
ever
true.
say anything by accident. You know, he's not just telling you this little detail that's insignificant in your eyes. No, it's not insignificant. Listen to what he's saying. You know,
Yeah.
and there's so many examples. I bet there's a YouTube video somewhere where it's like 10 times Oda told you something and you didn't even realize it. Like,
Oh
you know,
yeah, I'm sure.
because yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to now getting that moment because I have no idea what
yeah.
it could be.
Oh, and I'll tell you this. I never even realized that it happened until I was watching like a Teching 101 video or something. And he was like, yeah, like, remember that moment whenever this happens? I'm like, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
god.
I never put the pieces together until that. But yeah,
That's sweet.
I think you learn like halfway through Whole Cake or
Sweet.
so. And Whole Cake I felt like was a pretty interesting arc. So I feel like you won't have a hard time getting through that one. Which I hear mixed reviews on
Yeah.
Whole Cake, so I don't know.
Yeah, Whole Cake is pretty interesting because I know when coming back to the Eye Patch Wolf video, just because he's like one of my favorite creators, and I
Mhm.
watched his like why you should
He's the
watch.
reason why I watched One Piece, yeah.
Yeah, and it's he's a big reason that I got back into it was him, and my brother who was on the first step was telling me like you got to catch up. Um, but he was talking about, it's interesting when he was reviewing it, I think they were in the middle of Whole Cake Island,
Mm.
and he was like, a lot of us think that this is shaping up to be one of the best arcs in One Piece yet. But then now I like see on Twitter with a bunch of people who are like Whole Cake Island's trash, and then I also hear people being like, I really like Whole Cake Island, so I have no idea what to
Yeah, I
expect
was gonna ask you if you
from
have
it.
any expectations going into it, because I think my expectation going into it is I also had heard like I think as I was catching up right whenever they were at the end of Whole Cake, like they were pretty
Hmm.
much done with Whole Cake. The writing was on the wall, and I was thinking going into it, I was like, this is going to be one of those arcs that I don't like because I don't know. A lot of times, whenever I see a bunch of people saying they don't like something, my opinion tends to line up more with their end than the
Hmm.
opposite. And so I thought that I wasn't gonna like it, but I ended up walking away from Whole Cake thinking it was pretty good. Um,
Sweet.
so I don't know. I'm interested to see what you think of it whenever you're done with it because I can see some of the criticism some people have, but I think a lot of it is very unfounded. It reminds me of like whenever people hate on like Demon Slayer or something. It's like, no, you don't hate the show. You think the show is pretty good, but you just don't like the fan base. I feel like a similar thing happened, but almost in reverse, where the whole fan base came
Interesting.
together and decided, hey, we don't like this arc. And so I
Oh,
think that a lot
interesting.
of people just go into it thinking, oh, I'm not going to like this. So, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't really have any expectations because I think Whole Cake Island is truly where I don't know anything besides
Yeah.
like a few images of I think I've seen. I kind of know one of the antagonists that isn't Big Mom. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, who seems super
Mm-hmm.
strong. I've seen pictures of him.
Oh, yes.
But like I know a little bit of Flamingo, like I know a little bit about him. I know a little bit about Senior Pink, again, super eye patch wolf.
Mhm.
um so going into Dressrosa, I didn't know that much, but at least I had kind of an idea. I have
Right.
no idea really after this.
Yeah, and that's a nice feeling. So I would seriously avoid the
Yeah.
spoilers like a plague because
Yeah,
it's
usually if I see anything One Piece, it's just
yeah,
scroll as
swipe.
fast as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been having to do that since I've been caught up. Like I was talking about this on I was on Sensei Incorporated's podcast not too long ago,
Mhm.
and I was talking to him about people just love spoiling people for some reason. It
Yeah.
makes absolutely no sense, but like literally, I was in this Discord server one time, and I'm not going to use any kind of pronouns or anything or any kind
Mhm.
of like super specific like this is who.
Yeah.
But somebody came into it wasn't even about One Piece actually. Now I think about it, it was about a totally different show. But I'm not spoiling anything. He goes, "Oh, you're watching this?" And I go, "Yeah, man, it's super good." And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that." I'm just gonna make something up. I heard that Hurricane Harvey was pretty bad in Houston, and by the way, this person dies at the end of the show. I'm like, bro, what the heck are you doing?
What?
Like, what? I don't
That's
understand. And like,
brutal.
it is extra bad in the One Piece community. Like, there's a lot of people that think it's funny to like, you
Mhm.
know, make little memes where they totally spoil the crap out of something. Or even the people that are good intention, they don't put like spoiler warning, or they say spoiler warning after they freaking spoil something, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, imagine that I somehow had seen into the future, and I go, oh yeah, I go, oh yeah, Kobe actually ends up getting the One Piece. It's a really shocking twist of events, but by the way, spoiler warning. It's like, no, now it's too late. Now you already
Yeah.
told me. And that's
Yeah,
happened to me
for
a lot
sure.
with One Piece. Like before I ever was caught up, I pretty much already knew everything. There was no,
Oh, really?
yeah, I didn't know much. I actually agree with you. I think that Whole Cake was, and maybe it's just because Whole Cake's still kind of fresh.
Mhm.
But I didn't really know much about Whole Cake going into it, so maybe it was the same thing as you.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting to get. I mean, really, after the time skip is where I didn't have like any idea. Like,
Yeah.
I always knew there was a war. I knew Ace died.
Hmm.
For I've known that for years and everything, but like I didn't, even though I knew a few things and like I knew everyone loved Law and things like that,
Hmm.
but I'm really getting to the point where I just don't know anything, which is a very good feeling,
One
actually.
thing I like about the New World, which I think was almost like a response to Paradise, is that they do a really good job fleshing out the environments more. Like I started getting the feeling that all the environments were kind of samey towards the end
Hmm.
of the first half of it,
Yeah,
and once you get in the New World, nothing's the same. It's all
yeah.
like it's all 100% different. There's not one thing that is the same as the last, and I love that. And then also the whole aspect of the worst generation and the supernovas is just like
It's interesting.
just adds such like development to the world that I think we really needed. We really needed something like that. So
Yeah, and it was like at the end of when you get to the summit war, it's like I finally felt like I was grasping what like the who what players were in the world, like what everyone's role was, and then right at the end of that arc, everything's different, and then you skip
yeah.
2 years and you have no idea kind of anything really. So it's kind of cool to like rediscover that.
Hmm.
Uh yeah,
It's
and
cool
I
too.
also yeah, you
Go ahead.
go.
Okay. Every once in a while there's something that reminds you that the world just keeps on moving in One Piece. Like it never
Hmm.
just stops. Because I feel like in Dragon Ball or something, if you're not directly watching something, nothing's happening with that character. You know, like they're just
Yeah.
they're living in Goku's world, right? Whereas in
Hmm.
this, like you get back to Kid, it's like, whoa, he's missing an arm. And it's like, oh yeah, he got his arm cut off. It's like, what? Like stuff
Like
is
how?
happening in the background. Like or like
Yeah.
you hear about like I don't know if it's been mentioned, so never mind. But like, there's like moments where they'll bring up other minor characters and be like, "Yeah, he was in this," and it's like, "What was this?" And they don't really go
Yeah.
into any detail. Like they just like will briefly tell you something. And there's just so much that happens in that 2 years that like is just going on in the world, and getting to find out about all of that in the new world is like a thrilling experience, I think.
Yeah, and I think you see it in the like you said with like the islands in Punk
Hmm.
Hazard is one of the coolest designs because it has its own history
Yeah,
with Caesar, but then it also has plot
yeah,
significance with Sakazuki
yeah,
and their fight with Aokiji.
yeah.
So like that's really cool and that makes the island one of the most interesting because it's just two different
Yeah,
elements.
and that was one of the moments that is another one where it becomes more significant once you get a little farther from where you're
Interesting.
at. Like by the time that you're done with this arc, actually, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then you can come back to me and ask me. But it becomes, oh, actually, not in this arc. In Whole Cake, it becomes more significant what happened with the island. But it does like show you the scale of those two characters, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
dude, that island is permanently changed because they had a fight on
Hmm.
it, you know. And
Yeah, it
also like
shows you
it's also
like
like
yeah, you
One Piece
go.
is One Piece is one of those things where a lot of the fights are slow burns, and it shows you like because one of the biggest things in actually Shonen Algae just did a video about this semi about this, but it's about like will. I feel like almost all of the fights in One Piece are really just tests of will, right?
Hmm.
And that's one of those because I think it took them 10 days and 10 nights
Yeah,
to finish
something
that
like
fight.
that.
So they fought for 10 days straight. That's a serious test of will. And the
Yeah.
reason and like the fact that the island is still like that is again like a really strong showing of their willpower. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like what we were talking about with Smoker. It's like Smoker would just he would get destroyed by both of them.
Yeah.
So he and they're admirals, or
Hmm.
obviously now he's a fleet admiral, and they're both strong enough to be a fleet admiral, I think, because
Hmm.
obviously they're basically even in their
Hmm.
strength. But yeah, I'm also that's another interesting character who showed up, Aokiji. I think that's how
Hmm.
you pronounce it.
I think it's called, or I think his name is Aokiji.
Aokiji.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know I need to like look up more of this stuff, like the pronunciations, but him showing back up
Mm-hmm.
at the end and Flamingo being like, okay, we don't have to fight here because I don't want to fight
Yeah,
you.
yeah, because there's
And
no way
like,
he would win. Yeah, it was just like, oh,
yeah,
geez.
and seeing like what is he doing and like what's his plan now that he's not part of the
Yeah,
Navy. So that's
I
pretty
think that's a
interesting
good way
too.
for you to scale Doflamingo, by the way, because if you know that he wasn't even strong enough to beat an admiral, what does that tell you
Hmm.
about the emperors, right? Because like the
Yeah.
emperors are known to be stronger than admirals individually, and so
Hmm.
that kind of shows you the power scaling, right? Like he's not even at admiral level.
Yeah,
Um,
because like yeah, at best, Flamingo maybe could have like he could have maybe given a match to him, but like he probably
yeah,
still would have
yeah.
lost.
Oh, he would have lost for sure. There's no doubt in my mind that he would have gotten beaten. I think at like Doflamingo, I think I think he could be a Yonko, but he couldn't fight with any of the other Yonkos, right? Like
Hmm.
he couldn't go up to Kaido and be like, "Oh, let's have a one on." No, you're not going to
Yeah.
do that. But I
Hmm.
think he's strong enough to be considered a Yonko. Like I just think
Yeah.
he has the rank, but he would just be by far the weakest member. But he's stronger than like 99% of the rest of the world,
Hmm.
right? You know, so he could still
Yeah.
do it. But
Definitely. Yeah, because and he has Conqueror's hockey,
right, mm-hmm.
which is I think potentially a big deal. I don't really know that much about hockey anyways, but uh yeah, which is cool. Which is just funny when because I'm also reading it with my girlfriend. We've been
Mm-hmm.
reading the entire thing and she's read more than I have before this, but we were talking about hockey and it for a little while around Punk Hazard, it seems like they introduced just like a ton of people who know Conquerors hockey. And I was like, man, I thought they said like 1 in a million
Yeah, one in a
like has
million.
Conquerors hockey. But then we like looked up a list of it and it's really actually not that many
Yeah.
people who have it. It just felt like it because they
Mm-hmm.
kind of introduce a few right quickly.
Well, it's
And it's
because
kind
a
of
lot
crazy
of
that
the
Flamingo does have it.
yeah, it's because a lot of the like most key players have it because
Hmm.
it's almost like a prerequisite. You know, like if you want to be one of the most powerful people, you're more than likely going to have it just because of the fact that like most of the most powerful people have it, right? So
Yeah.
so it's almost just like a cause and effect thing. Like it's you don't really know which one's which,
Hmm.
but you know all of the really big guys will mostly have it to a degree, which is something that I think is really interesting about Rayleigh actually, is you don't really think of him as powerful as he is. And especially like in his heyday, like right now, he's still one of the most powerful people, and like literally the
Yeah.
world government knows where he's at, and it's just like, yeah, well, you know, what are we gonna
Yeah,
do?
they don't want to
You know,
touch him.
like,
Yeah.
there's no way we can fight him. So,
Hmm.
but that's like an interesting thing about him is if imagine how strong Roger had to be if his
I
second
know.
command is this crazy, you know, like yeah.
Yeah.
And then you know there's more to it. Again, can't get into spoilers, but there's more than that. Even like you know these players that were in the world beforehand. That's why I want to see
Hmm.
if I had to pick a spinoff that I'd really want to see, it'd be Garp because you get to see like the old age from the
Yeah.
perspective of Garp. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and it would be cool to see focused on someone who's in the military,
Right. Yeah.
right? Would be
Yeah.
a kind of a cool twist. And Garp's obviously just awesome.
Well, I like how they go into speaking on that really fast. Is I like how they always make sure to show you that most of the Marines that are higher up aren't just like you know government dogs. They have their
Hmm.
own form of justice and they have their own like you know moral ideals that won't line up with the world government every single time. Like you know actually Aokiji is a good example of that. Is that I feel like a lot of times he wouldn't have been willing to do what Sakazuki is willing to do, right? Like
Hmm.
Sakazuki's
For
like, just tell me
sure.
what to do and I'll do it. You know,
Yeah.
let's just get this over with. Whereas Aokiji would have been like, no, we can't do that. Are you kidding me? There's no
Oh
way.
yeah.
And so I think that that is something that I really like about the Marines in this is that they could have very easily just made them evil for the sake of being evil and give them no character development, but that's not what they did.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's like one of my issues with like Rob Lucci is
Mm-hmm.
he feels like he it actually feels like uh Sakazuki is just a better version of Rob Lucci. Like
Mm-hmm.
they accomplish the same thing, but he does it. Sakazuki does it just like way better because he kills Ace and he has way less screen time.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's why I wanted more from Rob Lucci is because it feels like every character has like at least an interesting motive for why they think the way he did. And like I
Mm-hmm.
get that like Rob Lucci is like just like a stone cold killer and he's just like the symbolism of the government, but it's like I wanted more because of that. And his lobby's so awesome.
Yeah.
um but he also does have one of the best designs in the show,
Yeah, it's
which I think
interesting the
helps him
way
a
that
long
they
way.
it's interesting the way they use Rob Lucci because even like later in the story, he's one of those characters that never becomes insignificant. Like he never. I feel like Luffy would not be afraid to fight a lot of the people that he fought early on. Like if Wapol came
Mhm.
back up to Luffy, he'd be like, like, I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of you at all. Like I'll just let literally Nami beat you. You know, like I'm not afraid of
Yeah.
you at all. But if Rob Lucci showed up on his ship tomorrow, he'd be like, oh shit. Like here we
Yeah.
go. I got to fight
That's
Rob
interesting.
Lucci. This is horrible. And so that's one thing I appreciate about Rob Lucci is that he always has some sort of relevance in the story, even if and like I said, he's one of those characters that's always moving in the background. Just always pay attention to what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always fun to read the
Cover
cover.
pages. Yeah.
Yeah, the cover pages are cool, and obviously I've mentioned this a couple times, but there's my volume 90s right there. It's like
Mhm.
motivation for me, and Rob Lucci's on the cover of it. So I'm like interested to see what he's going to be doing cuz I think that's at the beginning of Wano.
Yeah, I think that I only have one volume of One Piece at all, and
Oh,
it's I think
really?
93. I thought it was the same one for a second. I'm like, was that
Uh,
the same one that I had? But it was
yeah.
93.
Yeah, well, I think what because so how I've been reading it is I've actually just been like checking it out from our library.
Mm,
But when we get I think we first got volume 90, but I think we do also do have like up to 93. Like I think
mm,
I have like 87 through 93 or
mm.
something like that. And then I'm gonna start my One Piece
So you're
collection.
just like slowly catching up right now, so that whenever you do get to it, you're like, okay, I already have these. Sweet.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So I think we'll like at the end of Whole Cake Island, I'll start reading like my own volumes
Right.
and then
Yeah.
catch up from there, and then one day fill out the whole collection because I feel like I've got to own all of One Piece one day at
Yeah,
least,
I
you know,
agree.
even though
It'd
it's gonna
be
be
it'd be nice.
expensive.
It'd be nice. But yeah, one thing I want to tell you before we wrap this is,
Yeah.
do you have you tried reading it colorized yet?
I have not.
I
No.
almost feel like you're too late to even start trying to read it colorized because now you'll just be spoiled and then be like, oh, I have to go back to black and white now
Yeah.
because, dude, colorized is just, oh, it's just so good colorized. It made me realize that like one of the reasons I don't like reading manga as much is because of the color. Like you
Hmm.
just miss so much in manga, except unless you're reading like Berserk, where like the art is
Yeah.
so freaking good that like you're not
Yeah,
missing
or
anything.
like Jinji Ito. I think
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
uses black and white great.
Yeah, like there's those individuals who are like extra skilled at making things pop, even though it's in black and white. But I feel like Oda isn't necessarily super gifted in that. I feel like he doesn't
Hmm.
use as much shading as he could at sometimes, and so reading One Piece colorized is just it's just the best.
Sweet.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think so whenever I catch up, I'm gonna go watch some of the anime, and I
Mhm.
honestly might watch because I've seen that people are freaking out about the animation recently,
Mhm.
and so I probably will go watch big moments, and then I might like semi keep up regularly with the anime if the animation keeps up its quality,
Right.
you know, just
Mhm.
because like there's so many of these moments that'd be so cool to see animated, and
Yeah,
obviously
I
like
definitely go back and watch certain fight scenes and whatnot.
yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, and like obviously animations, like I love it probably more than I even love reading
Yeah.
manga and everything. But I also maybe I'll check out some of my favorite like chapters because like I think seeing his artwork with it colorized would be super cool. So I probably will
Yeah.
go check out some of that. Yeah, with color panels and everything.
Hmm. It's
Yeah,
the way
but
to go. It's cool.
yeah, because I know I'm gonna want to watch like probably the fight between Flamingo and Luffy animated and things like that. And I want to
Oh,
see. I might go back and watch the Summit War to
yeah.
see that
Hmm.
animated, just because it's one of the best battles in the
You know,
series.
there's some cool moments from that I do like. But honestly, the manga did Marineford so much better to
Oh,
me.
really?
Like it just felt like they dragged a lot of stuff on where they didn't need to. Like Luffy's running for 45 minutes whenever it's really like such a short distance.
Yeah,
Like, oh come on, like let's just get to it. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have like a small list of fight scenes and like moment like the moment where Luffy punches Charlos,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely necessary to go back and watch it in the anime. I mean, that's literally such a good moment in the anime. I was literally
Sweet.
watching that and I was literally sitting there like, what? No, I never react to anime at all. Like if
Hmm.
I react at all, I go, yeah, like that's kind of
Yeah,
funny, whatever. But in this moment, I'm literally like, oh my God, are you
that's
kidding me? This
awesome.
is fucking crazy. You know, just like blown away. So
Yeah, yeah. Sabo is amazing.
yeah,
uh I, Everything about that, like it reminds me, I've talked about this, reminds me a lot of Hunter x Hunter.
yeah.
um and that's just a great moment, and I think it was a necessary moment for like
Oh
One
yeah,
Piece
for
to
sure.
evolve.
Yeah.
uh Yeah, so I'm curious before we wrap things up, what's your favorite arc or saga pre-time skip?
Oh, my favorite arc in general is Water 7. I
Oh, it
love
is.
Water 7. Yeah, Water 7 is just the epitome of everything that I like about One Piece, encapsulated in one with a super interesting location as well. And so
I
that's got
do.
to be my
Oh,
absolute
I
number one favorite.
love the Water 7
Yeah,
location. I'm a sucker for like a city that's built through like water canals and
yeah.
everything and like a
It's
story that's so cool.
it's like Venice, except they're literally building onto it every single year. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's it's crazy. I just love the whole location. I love the entire story. I love a lot of the moments, like the Usopp versus Luffy fight, and like the walk to the
so
Frankie
true.
house. So many moments there that are just like
Yeah.
A1. So yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely have to go
for
with that.
yeah, for me, like I have like Summit War and Impel Down are at the top, but right
Mhm.
behind it is Water 7. And I do think that like I think Rob Lucci's fine.
Yeah,
I'm sure you probably like him a little more than I do because I'm definitely in the minority there. But I still think it's the second best that I've read so
yeah,
far.
that's fair.
Water 7's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's
And,
fair. I
like
think.
with Water 7 and Ennis Lobby.
Yeah, that's a good little combo there. And also, the C train is really short, but the C
Yeah.
train was really cool. And that was a one that I also went back. I reread the C train in the colorized version of the manga, and man, the colors just pop out at you like crazy.
Oh,
It's
sweet.
great one to reread. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. And I don't know what saga. I think they're actually all part of the Water 7 saga. So I
Yeah.
guess that would be my favorite saga as well. So
Sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, and that also because Robin, which is one of your favorite
yeah,
characters, is
hmm
one of mine as well. And her
hmm
whole, I think she has the best. Although I think Sanji has more to his backstory that I don't know. Um, but at least right now, I think Robin for me has the best backstory of
yeah.
all of the Straw Hats.
Mhm.
So yeah, Robin's awesome.
Yeah, and,
I
and and she shows her importance a lot, which I like
hmm
because like without her, they're not going to be able to read any of the ancient texts and whatnot. So
yeah, for
she's cool.
sure. Yeah, and that obviously the I want to live moment is
Oh
iconic.
yeah, absolutely. A1.
Yeah, but anything else? Any last thoughts?
No, I do want to say before we wrap, go check out my new podcast that we haven't posted yet, but we have a podcast channel. It's me and Pokesol are doing a podcast called Weeb Signal. So go check out the channel. We're about to launch our first episode here pretty soon. We were waiting to get some artwork back that we recently got back. So yeah, we're about to start that up. Super excited about that. And then obviously just go check out my channel and also subscribe to Essays. He makes great videos. He's one of the only people that I communicate with on a pretty regular basis that I actually watch the videos of because I just have a hard
Well,
time
thank
watching my
you.
friends' works, but he makes good
Yeah,
stuff.
thanks. Yeah, and definitely I think your podcast might be launched by the time this episode releases.
Okay,
So I'll have links to your channel and I'll link that podcast down because I'm
sweet.
excited to check it out too, because
Cool.
Pokes's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, we'll
And
definitely have
yeah,
to get you
so
on, man.
yeah, for sure. That'd be sweet. Yeah, it was fun talking some One Piece. And
Yeah.
so yeah, thank you guys for watching and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you sub to Tyler.